Hi, it's Nancy with a scroll in the garden.
Today we're supposed to get in the triple digits. So, like I was saying, the heat hasn't even really fully begun yet. But it's been feeling really hot, and it's probably going to feel really hotter today. But I'm going to get some water going here before very long. I just wanted to take a few shots for you this morning. So things are still looking well in the garden. Just that main thing now is to just get it through the heat without losing too much of it. Hopefully not any of it, but you know, I've already lost some. But lots of times we just place little clippings of different things, like some of the coleus. They're easy to root and get started again. But not in this heat. Not in this heat. They would just wilt before their little root even got a chance. I can't really believe that my lobelia is still going. This is the first time I think I've had it as late as the 12th of July. Usually our heat has already got it, but hopefully it'll just keep going. Isn't that pretty? Purslane moss is blooming pretty this morning too. There's some more of the purslane moss in bloom. And I'm still fascinated with the pretty diamond frost euphorbia. It's just like the lace of the garden. Right now I'm under the front maple tree where our little woodpecker has been pecking holes in the tree. But I haven't seen him in a while. I'd like to get his picture again, but I haven't seen him. I have heard him a few times, so he's still occasionally doing a little pecking up there. A little tap, tap, tap. I love this little angel. Actually got some more angels yesterday, or just recently. I put them out yesterday. I'll show those to you later. So I'm in the back gardens now, and this is one of my new angels that I was telling you about. It's one of my little new plants for this year that I put in not too long ago, and it's doing really well. And I can't remember for sure. It's one of the sedums. I think it might be called Thundercloud. This is one of the July flowers that takes center stage in July, is the pretty tall phlox. The daylilies are winding down, but they're still giving us a good showing to go out with. Isn't that pretty? And there's some more back there. Let's see if I can focus in on them without blurring them out. And there's some of the double petunias. And this is the pretty rose moss. I think this may be the daylily that I want to divide and put some of on my west fence row. This pretty yellow petunia, it was just gorgeous, but now it's got all laggy and looking terrible, so I'm going to have to trim that back and see if I can salvage any of it. And I also noticed this morning when I came out that this pretty little rose is blooming. Isn't that pretty? And there's another little cluster of it. And that's one of my new roses for this season also. Pretty little marigold. I think it was called strawberry blonde marigold. It's really turned out to be pretty. I want to save seeds from that. I hope they come back. Sometimes, of course, they come back true to the seed they were taken from and not the actual seed that was hybridized into, but we'll give that a try for sure. This little grouping of petunias is still doing well, so I may leave that, or I may eventually try trimming it back some too, so it doesn't get all leggy like this other one has. I noticed there's one little Philosopsia plant over here already having a morning meltdown, which is pretty much what I'm having in this heat too. This is a black-eyed Susan vine, and this little pink is a bat flower. I just noticed that some of my golden orange double cosmos is blooming. Here's another one of the beautiful double petunias. Isn't that pretty? This pretty little calabachoa is still looking good. It's small. I just would love to get them to just billow out in beauty, but I'll even take this. Just that one little spot of color looks good there. The hibiscus is still looking good. This is the Carolina ruffled hibiscus. This is my biggest and most billowing calabachoa. So just one of my favorites. Isn't that just such a pretty color? This little pot is looking good this morning. Look at that bright red shining out of there. Here is the pretty red Lord Baltimore hardy hibiscus. So I went around to the other side so you can see it a little bit better too. There's that lovely candy cane verbena still going strong in this heat. I just love this. And another light blooming daylily. Isn't that pretty? Beautiful lemon yellow. This shot is for my granddaughter Paige to show her that I finally got her little butterfly she gave me when we were helping her move. We got it put up. Doesn't it look good there? This is a tiny little spider zinnia alongside a beautiful daylily. Also wanted to point out that the grasses are beginning to put on their seed heads. I saw the ones downtown were doing that, so I figured mine would follow suit soon. And then there's that one other, those are some of the lilies blooming still too, but there's one other lily I wanted to be sure and get on here. These are little dahlias that are growing in this pot beside this little cherub, but this one right back here, I did not want to miss it. because it's just really putting on a show all by itself this morning. This is another one of my little angels that I was going to show you. I always think the garden decor just add a little extra to the garden. It helps you put your own personality into the garden too, when you can pick out the things that you like, and it just makes the garden have a little more character and a little more of your personality in it. I use them even in pots, as you can tell in this one here. If I make a pot arrangement, lots of times I add a little decor into the actual arrangement. And I did go ahead and clip this little yellow petunia back, and we'll see what it will do. Usually mine, once they get like this, that's the end of them, but we'll see. Maybe clipping it back will save it. I hope you enjoyed your scroll in the garden, and I hope you were not nearly as hot as I was during my stroll in the garden.
Hi, it's Nancy with a scroll in the garden.
I'm going to try to do a little like notes to myself on container gardens and what worked well for me and what I want to try to avoid next year that might be of interest to you too. I know that coleus are wonderful for pots. They just definitely are. They're my number one choice probably, because for one thing they come both in shade coleus and sun coleus, so you can find a coleus in colors that you love too and will go with almost anything. I always love the Calabrachoa, and this one is doing well enough that I would do it again. But I have noticed, as I told you before, that lots of my Calabrachoa just did not make it. That pretty little dahlia, that's pretty, but it's not really a favorite in containers for me, because to keep them wet enough to make them bloom well, you just about have to get some bloom rot. So they're just not a favorite for me, although I wouldn't say I wouldn't do it again, but they'll probably be less used. And I definitely will continue to go with coleus. I will continue to go with Calabrachoa, but I do want to try to remember where they worked well. Like this container, you can actually see that it's dying out there in the center too. It still does have some pretty Calabrachoa blooms on it though, and I would probably try this again here in this container. I don't know why it did better in this and than in some of the ones that it died out, but anyway it did, so I'll try to see if I can figure that one out too. Of course, this little pot right here is just totally sedum, which is also a good choice for pots because it stands through the heat of Oklahoma heat anyway, and does well with just a little watering. I will do this licorice again. It does work well in this pot. I found it in other pots that it does not work well in, but I love it in this. I'll probably actually put it right back in this same pot next year, because I found that it did well last year, and I tried it again this year, and this is how it's looking. So I really like it. This is also a licorice. This one is called icicles. I also love it. It's just so pretty. Just works with other things. I think I had one in with a container sized zinnia last year, and the colors just played as wonderfully off of each other as it does with Dusty Miller, which is also a favorite of mine, to put in with other colors and let the colors play off of each other. And I love the caladiums in a pot. Actually, my neighbor Diane got me started really loving this. I had already planted them, but she put hers in a pot that had some of the same colors as the caladium that she put in it, and it was just show-stopping gorgeous. This one I just put in with a little vine. This is a Mexican flame vine that hasn't started blooming yet, but it's doing real well coming up its little obelisk there, so I think it will do well. It's wonderful to look back at the plants you had and what did well and make a record of what does well for you, but don't count out those pots. This one just had a few little scraggly seedlings coming up in it, and it's actually very pretty. It's just some turned out to be petunias and sedum in there, but they just worked really pretty. You can tell the petunias grown all the way out here, and that's just from a seed from last year. I didn't do anything more with that pot. There's some more of the 2 different kinds of coleus with some other green foliage. This is Creeping Jenny with it here, but of course it's just always a favorite is the coleus. Even like this one here is just green, but it's very pretty, and if you look closely you'll see some purple in there, and if you can get some pretty, I tried to put some purple petunias in with it, but they just haven't really flourished enough to make a showing to get up close enough to it to where they really play off of each other. But they look very good together if you can get that going really good. And of course, I've told you I have my hostas in pots, and even though these didn't do well because of the snails, they do well in pots. I've kept them in pots for several years. I can't even think how many, probably at least 10. And this is the first year I've had them to be the snails to be so bad that they actually destroyed some of them, but you can tell they actually do very well in pots. There's one right there. There's several right there actually. There's 2 right there, and then there's another one right over here. And although I didn't put anything in with my Diamond Frost Euphorbia this year, it's just gorgeous even by itself, and it always works with color. It just really does. This is of course a not bleeding heart, but a purple heart, Wandering Jew, and it's pretty in pot all by itself or with other things. And always the Impatiens. If I don't have trouble with slugs, snails, or roly-polies, my Impatiens usually look very, very pretty. I'm always proud of them. I've enjoyed this Swiss chard in this pot, and this little petunia here has done wonderfully. I wouldn't count out the petunias, also wouldn't depend on them if you don't have something else ready or in there with them to take over that spot. Sometimes they do really well here, and other times they just disappear in the heat. And I was going to try to not forget to mention the gazanias for the sides of pots that have this coconut liner in them, because they work so wonderfully for they're just the perfect size to bloom, and it's getting later in the afternoon, so these are closing up, but they just have such a pretty bright bloom, and it's just right down low where it will grow right on that side and not just come up to the top and join in with the rest of everything up here, which is fine too, but I love it when there's color also on the pot. And the Profusion Zinnies are wonderful too. They do take a little while to come on, but once they start coming on, they don't stop until the frost kills them. And there's so many bright, pretty colors of them. The Profusion Zinnies are also small enough you can put them in pots easily, and they blend well with other plants. I've enjoyed this little watering can. It's just got a hole in it or busted loose there on the bottom, and so I just decided, well, I'll make a planter out of it. And this pretty Kong, the big leafed Kong coleus, was just perfect for it. And this could easily be my favorite of the coleuses. This is called watermelon coleus. Sometimes it's called rose coleus, but it's bright, and yet it's kind of like having a light on. It's not such a dark color that it kind of fades out in the shade, but it has this pretty bright color to it. And I always love to put it with this same color, or this, I think this is called a lipstick pink. No, I think this is the violet. I wanted the lipstick pink, but the snails killed the lipstick pinks I put in, which do look really good with this. But this violet looks really just as well. If you can get those growing really well together, that makes a stunning arrangement in a pot. And the snails actually have got most of my impatiens. Otherwise, I think this would be beautiful, and it's still pretty. And this is green, lime green coleus, and a black elephant ear, and it's got impatiens all around it. Some more, I think these are called painted coleus. These are just always good for a container. And then right over here is the pretty black kind of fork-leafed sweet potato vine, and I tried to put it in with this petunia, but as you can see, it totally took over. There's not much of the red and white petunia there, but I did that one year. That turned out really wonderfully, and there was as many petunias as there was this pretty black sweet potato, and they were growing in amongst each other, and that was also a stunning one. I will definitely continue to try till I get it like that again someday. So pretty. It's the heart-leafed black sweet potato vine, and this growing here with it is a morning glory. And I know you'll probably say, morning glory, why do you want that? Because it's just going to be invasive. But this little morning glory has never really gotten invasive for me, and you can tell it has a different shaped leaf. The others are usually heart-shaped like the black sweet potato vine. But this one, when it blooms, I'll show you why, and you'll see, because it is such a pretty bloom. It will be almost a navy blue, and it's totally trimmed and outlined in white. And this pretty little coleus has totally covered up my little garden decor. There actually is one in there, but she's hidden with all this pretty bright lemon lime color. And this is another one that I really like, but it's just not doing real well there either. But I love this. It's called a henna coleus, and I tried to get one started on the other side as well, but it just never has done well. And then there in front of that trailing one is bacopa, which is another plant. For me, I don't know if it's going to work or not. If it does, it usually looks really good. And I think this one probably will, because if it's still this pretty at this time of year, it usually makes it. But it's kind of like a calabachoa. If it starts going before now, it just plays out before very long. And this is another little container I've enjoyed, and I kind of just threw stuff in there. I didn't really have much of a plan for this one. I put a Dusty Miller in there, thinking that I would probably put a Dachandra in there later, which I never did. This pretty Vinca or periwinkle, I didn't think it would do that much, and it has not ceased to bloom since the first day it started. And then this pretty little double petunia has has really been gorgeous. The blooms aren't all the way down right now, but they have been just cascading all the way down past my little bird there. And then this, I just tucked that in there, and I thought, well, there really wasn't room for me to put that, but I was in a hurry and I just wanted to finish up, so I put it in there, and it's just looked so good there the whole season so far. It fit in there fine. I don't think it really needed any more room than that, and it's just added to this. This is just a little seedling. I kind of wish this were yellow instead of orange, because it would just blend in prettier with my color scheme, but it's still pretty and I like it. It's just a little one of those surprise that it turned out containers, which those are always welcome. Hi, it's Nancy with the Scroll in the Garden. Welcome back to our notes on container gardening part 2. There's a place for all size containers in your garden, from small, medium to large. And this one, I had the bright idea to not have to water so much, so I put these are actually thornless cactus. They have very few thorns in them, and I never found them until I tried to clip off some of these little panicles and start them in other places, and then I found them in my fingers. But they really truly are, they have very few thorns in them. But I found that for me, it seemed too sparse. I like a full container, so I ended up putting other plants that did need watering in there. So it's pretty though, but it just didn't exactly work out for me. And then I'll just go right on over here to this little angel too, because I think this is going to end up being pretty. It's still a bit scraggly right now, but this pretty little thundercloud sedum, it's like one of the big sedums, like Autumn Joy or some of those, except it's very small. It has little white blooms on it, and it's a perfect size for a container, and it seems like it's doing really well here right now. And of course, this is another coleus. This is the Alabama Sunset Coleus with a red penta, and that's worked well in this pot this year. Sometimes I forget about the bigger things that, well, normally I would put a penta just in the ground, because I basically get it for the butterflies. I love it to draw butterflies into the garden, but it's worked very well in the pot, and it just really accents the coleus there. And I can't just go on by without saying something about this beautiful silver sage. It is just one of my favorites. I wish I could get it going sooner so that it would really be big in the pot, but it's just now beginning to show up well, but it is definitely a show off. It is such a pretty little container plant. And if you have a small little pot that doesn't hold much water, sedum is always a good choice, or a rose moss. Any type of succulent will work. So here is one of the things, I don't know why, but I don't always think of when I start doing my pots, but I'm going to try to start using the geraniums more. This has just been beautiful in this little pot. And then this is another one this is a white bacopa, and it's just so pretty. It's not blooming all that much right now, and that could be the heat, but judging by the way this foliage is doing, hopefully we'll have some pretty blooms later on in the fall when the weather is cooler. If this will still last and bloom, and even if it doesn't bloom, isn't that beautiful? But if it blooms and had pretty white blooms all the way down, that would be another showstopper for me. And this is my calabachoa. It's closing up right now, but it's very pretty in here. I guess I would try it in this one again too if I if I don't forget and think, well, it won't work in that one, because for some reason it didn't work in the ones in the front. But I think this one gets just a little more shade. They're both shaded, both are like under the eave, but there's the hot sun just still beats so close to them that sometimes they just don't do well. This is another favorite for me, this little pot right here, and I got these at Atwood's years ago, probably 12 or 15 years ago, but they're just like a little bird bath, only they actually have the holes already in them and ready for you to put the dirt in and go. That I haven't seen them in a long time. I got, I think, 3 of those, and I just love them. But this little arrangement usually is very pretty. There's a geranium in that one too. I need some yellow. Actually, I have one of the Alabama Sunset Coleus trying to start right here, but as you can see, it may not make it. This weather it was not a good time to try to start it, but I'll try it again when the weather gets a little bit better. And this one, maybe because this little garden decor here, this little fairy has the colors of fall and the acorn on her head, but if I can get some pretty fall colors in this, it just always shines in the fall. I usually have something somewhat like what I have now, and also with yellow, well, I started to say purslane moss, which that would work too, but no, I was thinking the yellow Profusion Zinnies. That's what I normally have in with this, and I may try to get some started still. It's a little bit late, but it's not too late to get them started. And I don't hardly know what to say about this little plant right here. This is just let me see if I can say it, Plectranthus plant, but it actually has a little purple bloom. The ones I had last year had a deep dark purple, and these are actually a very soft purple bloom, which they haven't bloomed for me yet, but they were blooming a bit when I got them, just enough I could tell what color they were. But just the foliage, look at that foliage. This deep dark mixed in with some of the lighter foliages is pretty all by itself. But it's really pretty when it blooms. I hope to get to show you that sometime in the near future too. And then there's this little girl in her pot, and I have a little bit of a struggle getting things started on this, but once you get them going and it fills out, this is really pretty. I'm going to have to, as you can see, I put some of that Plectranthus right here, and I think it's going to look pretty. And there's some fixing to they have buds and it'll bloom soon, but you can see there beside it I tried something and it's having a hard time going ahead and starting. And this is also a Plectranthus, and it has a soft, like a lamb's ear feel to it, and look, it's very pretty. But I'm going to try to get a little bit more here started. I like it where all this cocoa liner is pretty much covered up with flowers. This is a small ponytail plant right here at the top, and then this is of course the vinca or periwinkle, and this is another spot where my Calabatroa did all right. I know I've seen them much fuller, and I wish this one was much fuller, but it's still so bright and pretty. I would still do it again here. Here she is from a little different view. You can see some more of the Coleuses, and let's see, what else do I have? Oh, that's a Penta right there beside it, and some more of the soft fuzzy Plectranthus. That's more of that same Calabatroa. It's just fallen over on the back side of it, and there's a couple of more Coleus clippings, and when they fill out, and it's even pretty now, but if they will fill out and just cover all that, it will definitely be gorgeous. And I definitely like this Plectranthus. bright red geranium and this little red and white verbena in this little pot. Looks so good. Let's see if I can go around and get it from this other angle too. And these little pots, to me so far, what's looked the best in these has actually been Impatiens and Coleus. But I thought since they do get a lot of sun, I wasn't going to trust the Impatiens to do well there. So I tried the Vinca or Periwinkle, and it's really not bad. It does look good, but it really hasn't done much either. But it looks good. And then there with it is that pretty double petunia. And in this one I've got the Coleus, which is really filling out and looking good, and just a little dianthus there beside it. And this one, this time I've got the purple and white verbena, and that's a little, what do you call that, like the Joseph's coat, this one right here. And they do come in different colors, but this is just the little green one. But I like it because I like that color in the garden. It kind of makes it look brighter. There's some more of it over here in this one right here. So I had to go over there and get that flower out of her, or that plant out of her face, so you could see her better. But these always look pretty to me with the Impatiens in it too, and then maybe a little bit of Coleus in there with them too. This one is this is a good size though for this little pot, and it's that same plant that I have over here that's like a Joseph's coat plant. And then this one I put that sedum in there, and I think that's going to be pretty, but it's kind of overwhelming her right now. And then right over here I put a dahlia, which is probably not my favorite with these either, because they also seem to overwhelm just a little bit, but it's still pretty. I absolutely loved this little pot right here last year. So pretty. And I do still love this demiller with this Silver Falls Dichondra, and then the pretty blue verbena. And I think I just had different colors of Coleus. This one's kind of dark for this spot, doesn't show up that much. The pretty Profusion Zinnies, I like them, but I need something maybe yellow, something to kind of pull it all together. It's just not that much of it's not exactly what I had in mind for it, but I still like it. I will try to put some yellow in it even this year, and definitely next year I'll try to put yellow in this arrangement. And this one has been beat about by the heat and the sprinkler, but this beautiful pink double petunia is one of my favorites, absolutely one of my favorites. Again, if you just have a small little pot and you really want to put something in it, do a succulent or a rose moss, because they just keep on going, even in a tiny little pot with just a little water. And I know I've shown you this one before several times, but I really do like it. It's done so well. This is one of the Coleus that has a little bit of a trailing habit. This little colorful one here. It's dark with kind of a lime green around it, and it's a very pretty Coleus. And then this one is like a ruffled green Coleus, and of course that's Angelonia. It's one of my favorites in pots too, for something with a little height to it, but it seems to do well in pots. Again, the Calabrachoa did okay, but not great. And then this one back here also has a pretty yellow Calabrachoa in it there by that Alabama Sunset Coleus. Don't be afraid to just throw something together sometimes either, because that's what happened here, and it turned out to be very pretty. Hi, it's Nancy with A Scroll in the Garden, and this will be our conclusion of Notes on Container Gardening. And I may need to put not coleus, but the mini petunia calabachoas in all of these pots along here, just because this one did so well. This is the best I've ever done on a calabachoa. It just looks so pretty, and even it's just in the one side, but it is very pretty. I love this spike with the rose moss around it in these tiny little pots that don't hold very much. These are our succulents in here. Sedum, it is a succulent, but the sedums are in these other two pots at the top, and they didn't do quite as well. Not that they did bad. They're still very pretty for that little top pot. But I think if they would all do like this, I would put the calabachoas in each one of them. So I decided to go around and get a side view of this one. It's just so pretty. I can just imagine maybe putting two in it and having it billowing out on both sides, just so full. And then each one of these three. That may be what I try next year. And I found that some of the things I think are just going to be gorgeous in a pot just fizzle out, and some of the things I just throw together with leftovers turn out to be some of the prettiest ones. So don't be afraid to try different things, because if you don't like it, you can always change it. I had a different thing in this, and it did well earlier in the season, but then it just got kind of burned, and one of them was a larkspur, so it just didn't last, but they don't last very long. All the perennials only have a short lifespan. So I put the succulents in here, and I just love it. I don't remember what I had in this last year exactly, but it was prettier. I do remember that, because I really loved this last year. And this year it's just kind of too dark, and it's all right, but it's just not a favorite. And this is my first little guardian angel. And so I really love her, even though she's been broken and blown over by the wind many times and put back together and repainted. But she is a favorite, and this is a favorite arrangement too. I usually like Alternanthera Purple Night in here, and I didn't get any going. I did try, but it just didn't come up for me. But I do have this little bit of a maroon coleus that kind of takes the place of that color. And then I just love the Dusty Miller with the beautiful Dichondra Silver Falls. I love this. This is the first year I've done the yellow and blue or purple Angelonia, and the yellow Marguerite Daisy. And then just the little sweet potato vine. I usually put all of those in there except the Marguerite Daisy and the Angelonia, and I switch colors out in this one, because I have found that no matter what you put in with the Silver Falls, Dichondra, and the Dusty Miller, it always seems to work. And this is another pot that I really enjoy too. And it's also got the Dusty Miller and the Silver Falls Dichondra, and it has a calabachoa right here that has done well. It's kind of fading out there in the center, which is not a good sign, and there's not bloom on it, but we'll see. We'll just watch it this summer and see what it will do in this pot, see if it's something I want to put back in there, or if I maybe want to put something different in here, like maybe one of the geraniums might do better in with this pot. But I like this one if it would just do well, if the Calabachoa would do well. The others is very pretty to me. A mixed pot of succulents can't hardly be beat either if you just have a small area, or even a large area, but one where you don't get to water it all that much. This one right here that's kind of tall is a thundercloud sedum, and then around it are the smaller sedums, and I can't remember exactly which succulent this little variegated one is, but I love it, and I hope it will just proliferate like crazy and I can put it in many other places. I love this little container. So it's been a lot prettier than this, but this is going to be prettier even on top because of these cosmos when they bloom, and then these celotias probably will have a bigger, prettier plume on them too. And this Alabama Sunset Coleus is also so pretty, and the pretty vinca or periwinkle in pink. But one of my favorites is just this plain little purslane moss just billowing out all over the place in this plot. And there's a tall phlox, not very tall, but a big pretty bloom on it. I hope that one will proliferate for me, and I'll have some more of that deep dark color, because most of mine are this color right here. But I do love these, and they've done so well for me. They're called Laura Phlox, which happens to be one of my daughter's names. And they have just done so well, and I've given away lots of starts for other people, and they loved them also. In this little container, I had in the center of it a Gaillardia, but it's spent and got all dry, so I took it out. And this one right here is a strawberry fields plant, and this one is one of the zinnies, the container size zinnies, probably a profusion. It may be one of the Sahara. They're both very pretty. And this little pot, I got this idea from one of my neighbors, Barbara, down the road, and she put a little cherub angel similar to this one in her little bird bath, and it was so eye-catching that we just had to do the same. So I hope being a copycat of somebody else is flattering. They say it's the highest form of flattery if somebody likes it so much that they copy it. These little cherubs are carrying a pot of sedum succulents. So in conclusion to our notes on container gardening, I would say just check your pot to see if it's how small, how deep, how shallow it might be, or how large, where you can have and put in it what needs. If it doesn't need much water, it'll work in a shallow. If it needs a lot of water, it probably is going to need a bigger, deeper pot. The sprinkler's coming by there in a little bit, but anyway, and then be sure you're going to put it where, if it needs shade or if it needs sun. Don't be afraid to rearrange it if something dies out of it, like right here in this little pot something has, and I've already tried something else there which didn't work. So you may have to wait till cooler temperatures to put new little clippings and starts in there, but Don't be afraid to change it out if something didn't work. And for myself, what I'm still going to need to make some notes that to tell myself where to put what next year, and where not to put Calabachoa or Bacopa, and where to put them, because I love them. I definitely want to be able to put them in the garden somewhere. Like this one has done pretty well. So I'll need to make more than just mental notes on that. I'll actually need to write that down. But for now, all I've seen that I need to do personally with my container gardens is places where I've got mostly dark coleus, dark plants. I need to put some of the lighter colors, like this little green, bright green here, or even that little red, just kind of depending on whether they're in the shade or the sun. That I need to get some brighter, lighter colors in some of mine where everything is just so dark, because the lighter colors not only brighten it up where you can see the whole thing better, but they also brighten up your dark colors. And dark colors are beautiful, but you can't see them if you just don't even notice them. They're just in the shade, and you don't think about them. But if you put a bright light color beside it, it brings out the beauty of the dark color just as well. So like this little container says, just have faith. Have faith that you can do it. That's the main thing, is just get out there and get started. More things are learned from mistakes than they are from being taught, or reading books, and all that's nice, but just get out there and make your mistakes and figure things out for yourself, because every location is different, every gardener is different, and just have fun with it. And I guess I could also tell you that we ate at a Chinese buffet here in town today, and my fortune cookie said, "A calm sea does not make a skilled sailor." So that's kind of what I was saying too. We just learn from our mistakes, so you just have to get out there and make them. That doesn't mean you won't be pulling things up when they get invasive and you wish you'd never put it there, but then you'll know not to put it there. And you'll find another plant just as beautiful that you'll enjoy just as much to put there in its place. Of course, it's hard to get an invasive plant in a pot. That's just another reason to use a pot, because if you have an invasive plant that doesn't spread through seed but just through root, you can contain it in a container and still keep your plant. Now if it proliferates through seed and root, that choice is up to you. For me, it's out of there.